All right, we have a video to watch. It's from the Lazy Peon. This is very relevant to my interests. The Kickstarter MMO disaster. In case you guys don't know, yeah, I'm a Star Citizen creator, which is the worst Kickstarter MMO of all time because it's made the most money and done the least amount of progress. But also, just like, I know New World's not a Kickstarter MMO, but man, New World closing was like, whoa. This can happen at any time. Scary stuff. So let's watch this, and I'm nervous to look in the mirror.
From the early to mid-2010s, Kickstarter was seen as a beacon of hope for
there
the
it is.
MMO genre, a place where ambitious ideas could finally break free from the endless web.
So all of those but SC are out of development, right? Crowfall closed, I think. Chronicles of Illyria has been proven to be like a massive scam, is my understanding. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but there's so many videos calling it a scam. So,
Wave of WoW clones chasing Blizzard's success.
Star Citizen's next. We'll just pause here for a little bit. I don't think Star Citizen is next because they have seemingly figured out a way to get people to still spend money on this, like, and to more extreme amounts than ever before.
Fast forward over a decade, and the sheer mention of Kickstarter and MMO in the same sentence is enough to send even the most optimistic fan of the genre into a state of PTSD.
Why isn't he talking about Ashes? Ashes was a Kickstarter as well, wasn't it? I know Ashes is paid for by the guy, but they've also done a Kickstarter, I believe, or they do crowdfunding at the very least. I mean, I know I bought a crowdfunded package.
But is this reaction warranted? Do Kickstarter MMOs truly deserve their negative reputation? How many of them were actually scams? Buckle up, because today, with the power of hindsight and data-driven analysis,
the power of hindsight, yeah.
We'll be diving deep into what I call the Kickstarter curse.
It's pretty simple. In order to continue to get funding, you have to promise more and more ridiculous things and then you get to a point where the things that you promise are unable to be created in the game without asking for more money, and then you end up in a circular loop, and then eventually, unless you're a Star Citizen fan, you wake up from the cloud that you've been in of excitement and realize that they're not going to be able to do what you want them to do. Wait, you got a Shroud of the Avatar newsletter? Wait, look, it's right there. Wait, what? I thought that was long gone and closed. The amount of Chris Roberts is glorious.
In the early days, it really did feel like anything was possible. Veteran devs from classic MMOs were leaving studios to create passion projects. Small indie teams were pitching worlds that promised free.
Who is that guy from UO? Gordon Walton? I don't know that one. But
freedom, immersion, and community. Everything.
He was an executive producer. That's it.
Weird felt that modern MMOs had lost. But there was one tiny problem. Making an MMO is insanely expensive, and yet many of these teams were asking for pocket change, sometimes less than what a AAA studio would spend on coffee for a month. It was the perfect storm of ambition, naivety, and fan-driven hype, and for a brief moment, it looked like it might actually work. So I wanted to find out what
they all say the same thing too.
Really happens to all these games. I went back through over 30 crowdfunded MMOs from the past decade, tracked their launch status, shutdown dates, and development timelines, then crunched the numbers to find out if the Kickstarter curse is indeed a real thing. I'll share the surprising results later in this video, but first support the content by subscribing.
He said the results are surprising, so maybe there's been some success?
subscribing for more MMO deep dives, and by listening to today's sponsor, Duet Night Abyss. Duet Night Abyss is a hybrid action RPG with a dual narrative that's just launched globally on PC and mobile. I actually did a first impressions video on this about half a year ago, and since then the devs have not only removed character and weapon gacha banners, but also dropped the old star rating system, meaning every character and weapon is obtainable through gameplay.
So now it's less gacha?
The stamina system is gone too, so you can farm and progress without any time gates. In version 1.0, you can unlock characters by collecting thoughts via the convert commission system, or by purchasing the exact shards you need in the shop. No RNG banners. Weapons are crafted by farming blueprints and forging them, and the demon wedge system uses fixed attributes, letting you build diverse character loadouts without chasing perfect rolls. Monetization now focuses on cosmetics like outfits and effects. The game features beautiful JRPG-inspired anime visuals and unique character designs. Combat is fast and flexible with melee and ranged options, smooth movement and co-op enabled dungeons. Exploration gets a boost with sprint, helix leap, grapple hook and sliding, plus PC keybind customization. So what are you waiting for?
Overkill says still RNG as fuck, it's just not in a banner, it's in drop chance. I mean, you're caught, dude.
Download Duet Night Abyss now.
No matter what you say, you got caught playing this game.
2012 to 2015, the Kickstarter Gold Rush. To understand how we got here, we need to go back to the early 2010s, a time when the MMO genre was starving for innovation, and Kickstarter looked like—
Wait, was that him down at the bottom? Oh my god, he looks so different.
Would be the answer. The first real explosion came in 2012 with Star Citizen, led by Chris Roberts, the creator of Wing Commander.
Yeah, this guy ruined everything, by the way, for everybody, because he was successful and like nobody else was.
This wasn't just a game pitch, it was a bloody movement. At a time when $500,000 on Kickstarter was considered huge, Star Citizen—
This was also because EA was like, this was around the time of like Battlefront doing weird shit with EA just being very, very weird. Like that was the whole idea behind Electronic Access and calling it EA as a meme, because EA was like the evil company. Blizzard was still like cool.
Pulled in over $2 million through its initial campaign, and eventually ballooned into hundreds of millions via its own crowdfunding platform, going on to become one of the most expensive games ever developed. It promised a fully simulated universe.
That would imply that it was developed and finished, the way he said it. That didn't happen yet.
FPS combat, player-driven economy, massive space battles, basically every cool idea anyone had ever had for a sci-fi MMO all rolled into one. It was the perfect dream, and at the time, nobody was really questioning the viability of any of it. We hadn't yet gone—
Oh, some people were.
Through years of Kickstarter disappointment. Back then, players wanted to believe. These early projects were built on trust. Trust that passion and community funding could achieve what publishers could not. What followed was an avalanche. Developers saw the success of Star Citizen and instantly jumped on the Kickstarter bandwagon, convinced that if they just asked nicely enough, players would throw money at their dream MMO too. Suddenly, every veteran developer or indie dreamer with a design doc and a logo was pitching the next great MMO. Projects like The Repopulation, Camelot Unchained, Shroud of the Avatar, and Pantheon Rise of the Fallen all hit Kickstarter between 2012 and 2014.
Man, Shroud of the Avatar was the most disappointing one for me. As an Ultima Online player, I thought it was like, Lord British is back, here we go, this is gonna be it. And then I looked at the combat system and was like, that's not Ultima Online next. And I never backed it.
Each one promising to bring MMOs back to their roots and fix what the genre—
And he sold housing, which was the entire game of Ultima Online. Like, the housing market was the whole thing.
Genre had lost. MMO YouTubers were covering these projects constantly, forums were buzzing with speculation, and players genuinely believed that we were witnessing the rebirth of a genre, a new golden age not funded by publishers but by the players themselves. The issue was, whilst all of these ideas sounded amazing, none of them had the budget, manpower, or infrastructure to actually pull them off. The amount of money these games were asking for on Kickstarter was a drop in the bucket compared to what they'd actually need to build.
It's what CIG spends in a week now.
build a fully functioning MMO. Most campaigns are asking for a few $100,000, which sounds like a lot until you realize that even in 2013, that was barely enough to pay a small team for a year. Just to put this into perspective, in 2013, a typical game dev salary was roughly $80,000 per year. So
in the United States, go look at a UK game dev salary. It's very different.
Even with a tiny 5-person team, they'll be burning through at least $400K annually. Vanilla WoW cost $63 million to initially develop back in 2004. Star Wars The Old Republic reportedly cost $200 million. Both Firefall and Tabula Rasa reportedly cost in the $100 million range, according to
I never got to play Tabula Rasa, but Richard Garriott was the Ultima Online guy.
MMOs.com. Defiance hit 80 million, Rift somewhere between 50 and 70 million, Bless Online around 61 million, DCUO and The Secret World both about 50 million, and Final Fantasy XIV was estimated at roughly $120 million. So yeah, as impressive as raising a couple million on Kickstarter might have seemed at the time, the reality was that these studios maybe had a year or two of runway before—
Didn't know Rift was kickstarted? No, none of those games were kickstarted. All of those were examples of development costs to show how ridiculous the initial Kickstarters were. So like, hey, I need $1 million. Like, what? No, you don't.
They'd need more cash. And
you need
sure
a lot
enough,
more than
that's
that.
exactly what happened. Many turned to their own websites to continue crowdfunding, selling founders packs, opening pledge stores, or using that Kickstarter money to build a prototype that they could then use to pitch to investors or VCs.
That was the idea behind Star Citizen. So he went to GDC, said, I need 2 million. All I'm trying to do is show that the space genre isn't dead by showing that there's backing for it. But then he got excited by the fact that he wouldn't need an investor. And guess what? He ended up needing an investor. And I believe that investment, while needed and the studio was probably going to close, caused a lot of the problems that we're currently running into today, where ship sales are rampant. We're rushing out Squadron 42 as fast as possible and making that the focus 100%. And yeah, there's no way CIG did what they wanted to do.
The MMO Kickstarter golden age lasted from 2012 through 2015. In that window, 22 out of the 34 MMOs I researched either achieved, attempted, or failed their—
Wait, Albion and Eve were kickstarted? No.
Initial funding. After 2015, the sentiment began to shift. Optimism faded, patience wore thin, and gamers
Albion
began
was? I
asking
didn't
questions.
even realize that.
2016 to 2017, the last hurrah. 2016 to 2017 was the last hurrah for big money MMO Kickstarters. These were the final 2 years where MMOs managed to clear
Albion's
7 figures
great
on the platform, with Chronicles of Illyria in 2016 and Ashes of Creation in 2017. It was an interesting moment. You could already see the impatience of people creeping in. The first wave of crowdfunded MMOs hadn't produced much that was playable, but most of them were still early enough that people were still willing to wait a bit longer. We knew MMOs took a long time.
They always did this. Everything around the character looks good. The character and their animations look like shit
to make. Back then, not enough time had passed and not enough games had failed for people to fully lose faith. That's why both Chronicles of Illyria and Ashes of Creation still raised big money. They both promised a very different approach to MMO design. Chronicles pitched an MMO where characters age, can die permanently, and your soul continues in your child.
Which was literally taken from Star Citizen. The idea that your character dies. I don't think we have age. I think he wanted to do age and then backed off on that or at some point. But I think your character dying is the weirdest thing. It makes no sense to me.
Ashes promised its node system where no two servers would be the same. So even though people were getting burnt out on Kickstarter MMOs, they weren't ready to give up hope just yet. And this clip from my video in June 2016 sums up—
This includes you. Like, you have been an Ashes fanboy, not fanboy. like a fan, like wanting it to succeed, of course.
The mood at the time perfectly.
Like most of us do.
And this brings me on to something that could be the light at the end of the tunnel. In the past few years, we've seen a massive rise in the amount of games being produced out of crowdfunding and early access, with many of these games being incredibly ambitious projects, some of them doing really well and others not so well. Quite a large number of these games that are being funded are MMORPGs, due to the fact that these kind of games take years to make and most of them started their development after 2013. In the next few years, we're going to start to see a lot of these games released. The reason I'm more optimistic for these MMOs is that the people making them are doing so out of their own choice and passion for the genre. They're working closely with the communities that funded them and appear to be more open to feedback than your typical AAA studios.
Hang on, this...
Yeah, so they're more open to feedback, therefore they change the same thing over and over again, and just instead of just sticking with their guns, they're trying to please everybody and therefore pleasing nobody, instead of just making the best game that they possibly can make from their opinion. I wish CIG would do that. If CIG just straight up says, Mike, we're not making the game that you want to play, oh, that would just be fucking fantastic. That would make life so much simpler. Because I sit here and argue every day, it could be better if they did this. If they just straight up say, we're not doing it, then, and we're just going to do it this way, fuck off, then that would make life so much easier.
Spot here, aged like milk.
A few crowdfunded MMORPGs that I'm personally excited to try are Crowfall, Chronicles of Valeria, Camelot Unchained, Gloria Victus, Life is Feudal, and...
Oh, Life is Feudal, what a fucking opportunity. Lost. That game was so cool.
Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, which is being made by the guy that created EverQuest.
So that was painful to watch. I was so young and naive, just an absolute time capsule.
Yep.
The funny thing is, I never actually got to play Chronicles of Valeria. Camelot Unchained still hasn't released. Crowfall and Gloria Victus came and went, and it was only about 11 months ago that I finally got to play Pantheon Rise of the Fallen for the first time. Crazy stuff. Anyway, from 2016 to 2017, we still had hope. What happened in the years after, though, made sure that we would never see another Kickstarter MMO crack $1 million to this day. 2018 to 2025.
Yo, did that boat game make over $1 million? The one that I made fun of on YouTube and they commented? Because I was like, here we go. Another fucking Kickstarter promising, saying they're going to do this, that, and the other thing. We know you're not. Just stop.
The apathy years.
Yeah, Ahoy.
From
I think they
2018
broke
to
$1 million.
2025, only 7 notable MMOs popped up on Kickstarter. 2 of them
What happened to them? They got tons of fucking funding. That's what happened.
To receive funding, and only 2 managed to raise over $200,000, one being
They
some
wanna
crypto
be an
game
MMO.
that people thought they'd see a return on investment, and the other being Stars Reach by Ralph Costa, which already spent years in development, already had something played.
Stars Reach is the one you guys keep sending me to, right? It hit 800K, okay. Damn, I thought it went over $1 million.
The campaign primarily to prove market interest to investors. People had stopped backing for a reason. By this point, we had watched multiple crowdfunded MMOs fail or shut down. The first wave was still nowhere near playable, dates slipped by years, updates slowed, trust eroded. Then 2020 hit. COVID disrupted everything, and Chronicles of Valeria, one of the big hype projects, showed what 4 years of development.
So there was this cocktail waitress that I worked with, and she was dating this guy, and the cocktail waitress knew that I played video games, and she knew that her boyfriend played video games when I was working at the casino, and she was like, you got to go talk to him. You got to go talk to him. So I went and talked to him, and he was like, what, I was like, oh, what game are you playing? And he was like, oh, I'm playing these 2. I think, like, I'm really excited for these 2. And he goes, Pantheon and Chronicles for Illyria. And I was like, oh, brother, you're fucking toast. I told him then, I was like, there is no shot for those games. Your ass is grass, dude. Oh, no. And I went up to her and I go, your boyfriend's a fucking idiot.
And looked like with pre-alpha footage.
Good luck with that one.
2020 Lazy Peon, take it away. Indie Studio sets out to make incredibly ambitious MMORPG and turns to Kickstarter for $900,000 funding, which is absolutely nowhere near enough money to make the game, but they don't make this.
Yeah, then I told him I backed SC. At least my copium dreams are still, they're just like embers now. It's not a fire.
Clear during the Kickstarter, and backers don't understand how much MMOs cost to make, so they believe it's possible. The devs estimated that this incredibly ambitious MMO will be ready by the end of December 2017. They thought they could make an MMO in 2 years of development with $900,000. They continued crowdfunding through their website in hopes of getting the game to a demo state where they can attract a publisher. All this time, keeping their backers...
Yeah, it's like they thrive on the ignorance of the community who doesn't know game dev and doesn't know the costs of these things. They don't care. They just want to play a good game. So if you sell them enough on a good game and you spend all that $900K on stupid videos like this,
under the illusion that the game is entirely funded through crowdfunding and not letting it be known that real investment is needed. The game eventually raised $7.9 million, still a drop in the bucket compared to how much money is needed to make this game, but also 9 times the amount of money they initially asked for to finish the game on Kickstarter. They still couldn't find a publisher or private investment to fund the game. 11th of March 2020, they launch a big sale for land in a game that's nowhere near completion, and at this point
bro, jeez, the moment you do that, like, again, it's like selling ships in Star Citizen. You are selling the game before the game comes. You're selling what you're gonna do in the game. What is the point of buying land? What is you just, oh, everything I was working for, no point. Like, goddamn, games that have land, the whole point of, like, I guess for me, it was an Ultima Online thing. Ultima Online had more demand for property than they had property. There was no room. You could not place a house in the more popular servers on that game. So like Pacific and Atlantic, I don't know about the European shards, but Pacific and Atlantic, there was a legitimate housing market that was like based on supply and demand. Because you literally could not place. That was it. And that's what you played the game for. Like, that's what a lot of us played the game for. Was like, I need to grind, I need to make some money, I need to get this, I need to get that. So you're building up your character, but then you're also building up your housing plot and trying to get a bigger one and move from a small two-story tower to a big keep and shit like that. So land discounts now, because of only 5 systems, you are brain dead. You're brain dead.
Obviously never exist. Prices range.
Star Citizen won't have any scarcity for land. All of the land claims purchased when they sold them on the website cannot fit on one moon in Stanton.
Ranging from $65 to $1,350.
There's more than
20th
one
of March 2020. Pre-alpha testing begins, but it's basically just some shitty parkour tech demo that looks nothing like the game they advertised and has no MMO features. It looks like something that's been thrown together in Unity in a few weeks. 5 days later, they announced they've run out of money, finally come clean about looking for additional money through investors or publishers. Staff laid off.
CIG was very clear about that initially, about the, like, again, hey, we're crowdfunding money, we're only going to do this for a week or whatever, and then we're looking for funding. And then he was like, hey, I don't think I need to look for funding. Let's see if we can do this.
Game
I think they were very open about that.
The fallout from Chronicles of Elyria did real damage to every crowdfunded MMO.
Thanks, Alan.
Overnight, we went from hopeful optimists to jaded skeptics, and who can blame us? A lot of us assumed that the flashy Kickstarter trailers use real in-game footage. In reality, many of them were carefully constructed vertical slices.
Yeah.
From 2019 to 2021, so
Squadron
many
42,
of these
by the way,
projects were either shut down, abandoned, or looked like straight up scams. We had Identity prove itself to be vaporware and be abandoned in 2019. Oath was both crowdfunded and abandoned within the time span of a few months.
Oh my god,
Guardians
yeah,
of
I
End
remember
shut
that.
Down, Pathfinder Online shut down. We had the disaster with Chronicles of Elyria, and we also saw Titan Reach fail its Kickstarter funding, then find outside investment, only to later shut down anyway. At this point, the Kickstarter curse was very much real. So this trailer was all the way back in January 2015. This isn't in the game. This isn't in the game. I'm pretty sure this shop isn't in the game. I didn't see it. This garage isn't in the game. The jail's not in the game. I didn't see the jewelry shop in the game. Guns and hunting wildlife? Nah. Back when I first saw this trailer, I thought this was actual content that was in the game. But it looks more like
Wallpaper engine, right? In-game computer, yeah, didn't see that. House in the woods. This was 6 years ago. It's almost like everything that was ever shown in this trailer was all completely fake, really. They wanted to have boats and sailing the oceans in the game.
Should we go through CIG's content? Should we go through CIG's content? That's not how it works. That's not what it looks like. That's not how it is. Nope, that's not in the game yet. Nope, that isn't a thing. Nope, can't do that.
Mate.
You can produce drugs, you can do smuggling or arms dealing.
This game was a prime example of a dev literally promising the entire world in a video game.
So that
they're just like, the whole point of what that dev was doing there is showing what they want to do in hopes to get funding, instead of making something so people can be like, yo, this is something I'm into, and then getting funding.
brings us to today, October 2025. Enough time has now passed that we can look at the majority of these projects with clear eyes. I present to you the spreadsheet. Here I tracked game, crowdfunding year, when they...
Star Citizen, current status ongoing, verdict unrated, raised 2.1.
were first playable or fully launched, their current status, how much money they raised, and a verdict as to if I'd consider them a success or failure. Of the 34, I've only marked 4 as objectively successful so far: Guns of Icarus Online, Elite Dangerous, Adventure Quest 3D, and Albion Online. And here's...
Bro, Albion is so fucking good.
The irony: Albion is by far the most successful MMO to come out of crowdfunding, and it's the one that didn't use Kickstarter.
Yep.
They raised funds through their own site via founders packs. So if anything, that proves that the Kickstarter curse is very much real. Obviously, a lot of these games are still in active development, so I can't give a verdict on all of them, especially the more recent ones. But so far, with the current data, crowdfunded MMOs have an 11.8% chance of being considered a success, a 14.7% chance of releasing and being an average game that was enjoyed by a niche community, and a 47.1% chance of complete failure.
So, like any other business.
With 26.5% unranked.
I mean,
73.5% of crowdfunded MMOs did end up being playable to some extent, whether it be early access, pre-alpha, or demo, whilst 26.5% never even produced something that you could consider playable. Of the 73.5% playable crowdfunded MMOs, 32% of them are still playable. 20% are still in early access with ongoing development, but not fully released. 36% of those shut down, and 12% are dormant in a state of limbo. The average time to go from Kickstarter to first playable in an alpha state was 3 years, with 5 years being the average to fully launch. After first becoming playable in alpha,
Star Citizen brought that average up at least 1 year.
The average time to then shut down was 3.2 years. In 2025, a common sentiment in the MMO community is that Kickstarter MMOs are scams, but is that actually true?
Yes.
Of the 34 games listed,
I believe it is. The putting up, I need $50,000 to make an MMO is where it feels like a scam. That's the scam part, I think.
There's probably only 5 or 6 that I'd put in the scam category. Most of these failures to me look more like overambition, mismanagement, or money running out rather than deliberate fraud. It's definitely fair to say that many of the games listed here have at one point or another done things to massively mislead the people funding them though, oftentimes presenting their games in ways that seem closer to completion than what's true in reality. But to play devil's advocate, perhaps this was necessary for them to attract the outside investment needed to...
A lot of them probably didn't know how much money it would take. I mean, I think it's always fair to assume ignorance rather than malice or whatever, but I don't know. After seeing CR, they just tried to do the same model. Because CR said 2.5 million when he wanted to make 2 games, right? So, like, but he was, again, open and honest with the idea of, we're looking for backing. If I remember correctly, I mean, it was fucking 13 years ago, but if I remember correctly, that was the plan at the time. So, like, I think the deception and weirdness with CIG happens a lot more now than it did then. But then then I think they got addicted. It was like cocaine, dude. It was, if I draw a picture, I'll make millions. If I say that, yes, you could do that, I'll make another million. And we'll just keep doing these silly crowdfunding milestones that, 100 star systems only cost another 100 million or another million, even though it would take another 200 million to make or more, or fucking a billion to make 100 now, right? So the deception happened later with CIG, but people followed the model thinking it would work out. That's where I think most of these later ones were, like, you could go, yeah, they're more ignorant, but I think that they also were like, just trying to copycat, but actually aren't capable of delivering on any of the ambitions. CIG did a good job of drip feeding, like, here's your hangar with your ships. Here, now you can fly those ships and shoot some of them. Here's a bunch of planets you can land on, and they drip fed, and they're still drip feeding, but they drip feed stuff that's like overly ambitious still, and it's like, damn, if they could just do this, it would be epic. And for me personally, I'm at the point where if they just stopped visual development and just focused on the actual, like, sandbox gameplay stuff, they would have a great game, but they just don't do it.
Keep the lights on. Going into this investigation, I actually expected to find way more games that I'd consider straight up scams. But now I think a lot of these projects were run by extremely passionate idiots. People with zero business sense and big dreams that weren't grounded in reality. I've met so many people like this behind the scenes over the past decade whilst covering this genre. They're not bad people, and
yeah, like, this is the one you guys sent me. Like, this game's going to be so good. And I'm just sitting here going, I don't give a fuck anymore. Let me know when it is good, and I'll play it. Like, I have no desire to, like, all right, I am so interested in Ashes of Creation, but I don't have a huge desire to play it now and be invested in it now. Let me know when it's good, and I can't wait to just, like, be a fan.
do respect them for taking a risk, putting themselves out there and trying to bring something that they're passionate about to life. But it's often the blind leading the blind, and when you've sold someone a dream, the crash when that dream shatters can be devastating for everyone involved. To end on a lighter note, one big positive that indirectly came from the Kickstarter MMO era is how it pushed bigger studios to be more transparent. Players made it clear they wanted clear roadmaps, dev talks, and honest communication. Now you see update blogs, live letters,
but none of them are honest. Yeah, look at this one. Fucking
Q&A streams, and behind
didn't say shit, and then was like, oh yeah, by the way, we gotta go oh my god, console, and that just killed it.
behind the scenes videos as standard across the genre.
I don't know if I've heard of a console MMO being successful.
We may not have got the indie MMO revolution that we'd hoped for.
Is there one?
But expectations change, studios now talk more, plans are public sooner, and if you go quiet for months, people notice. And for the
I didn't know Final Fantasy XIV was on console. Okay.
Kickstarter curse, I think it's real.
2 games I don't play.
But that's it for this video. Tons of work went into this one, so please do give it a like if you want me to keep making more high-effort MMO content like this, and let me know in the comments what you think about Kickstarter MMOs. Do you still think that most of them are scams, or has seeing the data changed your perspective? I'd also like to give a shout out to my video editor for doing an incredible job so far. If you've got any feedback for the video editing, leave it in the comments below, as he's still learning what style people enjoy most. Social media on screen, sub to the channel for more MMO content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Okay, I mean, that was funny. It's weird because CIG just doesn't have the same problem that all these other people did. Its funding always dried up. If funding never dried up, what would those games be? How many additional promises would have been made? all that stuff. If Larian made a Kickstarter MMO, I would still back it. Larian wouldn't make a Kickstarter MMO because they know that it wouldn't be beneficial to their backers, right? They would just make an MMO and make it good, and then I would assume sell it as a subscription model, because that's the way MMOs should work. MMOs should take years and years and years for your character progression, and it should be enjoyable the entire way through. And the best way to do that for a developer is a subscription model, because it puts the effort on the developer to make the game as enjoyable as possible every minute that you're playing it, and it makes, I think it's like better for the player as well. I know people hate it, but I just prefer it. It just works for me. I pay monthly. If I feel like I'm not getting what I want out of it, I'm out. And it's as simple as that. None of these huge transactions that are happening in a game like SC. But yeah, like Star Citizen just remains to be seen if it will be successful, simply because their funding just doesn't dry up. And they continue to make it worse. So I had, the most surprising thing of this year was that they that their funding was like incredibly better while doing like nothing too exciting. Link to video, of course. Yeah, there's Lazy Peon's video right there. And yeah, hit subscribe and like and all that stuff as well. If you guys enjoyed this, because he's pretty awesome.